Hare Krishna. I welcome all to our Bhagavad Gita session. The objective of this class is to enable reading of the shlok, to understand the meaning of the shlok, and to help understand the basic philosophy of Gita. We are on chapter 13, nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. Right? So, this chapter has got 6 sections. We have already covered 4 sections. Today, we will start the 5th section from 20 to 26, that is Prakriti, Purusha, and their union. Right? So, that is what we'll be doing from shlok number 20 onwards. We'll start today. And just to summarize what we have learnt in this chapter till now, I'll quickly take us all through the sections that we have already finished. So the first section is the first shlok, which consists of Arjun's 6 questions and Krishna's answer to Kshetra, Kshetragya, and Gyan. Yeah. So in the first shlok, Arjun asks 6 questions and he says to Krishna that I wish to know about Prakriti. What is Prakriti? What material nature? Purusha, Purusha, the enjoyer. Kshetra, Kshetragya, Gyan, and Gayam. Yeah. So this is the 6 topics that Arjun wants to know from Krishna. So Krishna in the second shlok, he explains what is Kshetra and what is Kshetragya. So he explains about Kshetra and Kshetragya. So what is Kshetra? Kshetra is the field of activity. Yeah, what is Kshetra? Kshetra is the field of activity. And what is the field of activity for us? It is the body. So what is Kshetra? It is our body. Why body is compared with the field of activity? Why is body compared with the field of activity? Because what happens in a field, whatever we sow, that is what we reap, right? In a field, if I am sowing a neem tree, I get a neem tree. If I sow a mango seed, I will get a mango tree, right? So whatever we sow in the field, accordingly we will get our reap. Similarly, this body is compared with the field of activity. It means whatever karma activity we will do, accordingly we will bear the result. So why it is called the field of activity? Kritika, why is this called the field of activity? Because whatever we will do the activity, accordingly we will reap the result. Then the second point is Kshetragya. Who is Kshetragya? And then here it talks about 2 things. Kshetragya is the knower of the body. Who knows the body? First is the soul and then is the super soul. Now soul only knows about the individual body, but the super soul knows about all the bodies. It knows about all the bodies. Super soul is situated in each and every body. So Kshetragya is the knower of the Kshetra, which is the knower of the body. And Krishna talks about 2 things, the soul and the super soul. And then the question is, the third thing he explains is Gyan. What is Gyan? What is Gyan? Gyan is knowledge. What is knowledge? And he says to know about the body, soul, and super soul is knowledge. Why does Krishna says that knowing about body, soul, and super soul is knowledge? Why he doesn't talk about studying of medicine is knowledge, or studying of engineering is knowledge, or studying of commerce is knowledge? He doesn't say that, right? But he says studying of body, soul, and super. This knowledge someone has is called knowledge. And he has explained this as the Raj Vidya. He has explained as the king of all knowledge. Why? Because whatever study we do in the universities today, the material study that we do, none of that can help us to cross the cycle of birth and death. None of them can help us to cross the cycle of birth and death. But this knowledge, which is called Raja Vidya, this knowledge actually will, when we know about the body, the soul, and the super soul, when we know this knowledge, this can actually help us to cross the cycle of birth and death and get liberated. And that is why this knowledge is called the Raj Vidya. That is why it is called knowledge, right? And then Krishna talks about the composition of this body. So body is what? Body, he says, the body is made up of 24 elements. The body is made up of 24 elements. And what are those 24 elements? It talks about the 5 great elements. The 5 great elements is Mahabhuta. What is that? Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So what happens when the soul leaves the body? When we say someone is dead, what happens? The soul actually leaves the body, and then the body remains. Everything remains in the body, but the soul. And when we burn the body, what happens? It again mixes back to the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So these are the 5 called the great elements, Mahabhuta. Apart from that, the 24 elements of which our body is made up of is, first is these 5 Mahabhuta, then is the 5 Gyan Indriya, that is knowledge acquiring senses. What are the knowledge acquiring senses? Which are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. These are from this we gain knowledge. So they are called Gyan Indriya or knowledge acquiring senses. And then there are 5 Karmendriya, working senses. What are the things from which we work? Which is our voice, our legs, our hands, our anus, and our genitals. They are the working senses. And then he talks about the 5 sense objects. What does the eye sees? From eyes we can see form, right? What does the ears hear? It is the sound. From the nose, smell. From the tongue, taste. And from the skin, touch. These are the 5 sense objects. So these are the 15 plus 5, that is 20. And what are the 4 other elements? Apart from this, something which we goes with our soul. When we die, there's something which we goes with our soul, which is mind, intelligence, and false ego. This goes with our soul when we die. This and Pradhan. What is Pradhan? Pradhan is the modes of material nature. The modes of material nature is when the body does not have consciousness, when the living entity is not there, then the modes of material nature, which is the ignorance, passion, and goodness, is an unmanifested state, is not there. But as soon as the living entity enters the body, it becomes manifested. So these 3 together is called Pradhan. It's called Pradhan. So these 24 elements is what our body is made up of. It's nothing but a material. This body without the soul is just like a material energy. It cannot do anything on its own. So it is a material energy. So this is the composition of our body. Then Krishna explains about Jnanam. So Arjuna is asked about 6 things. What is Kshetra? Body. Kshetragya, knower of the body, soul and super soul. What is Gyan? Which is knowledge. Knowledge is knowing about body, soul, and super soul. Then 4th is Jnanam. What is Jnanam? Jnanam is basically the process of acquiring knowledge. And he said knowledge means knowing about body, soul, and super soul. So Krishna explains in detail who can actually what are the qualities someone has who can actually get this knowledge about body, soul, and super soul. And he talks about that as the 20 elements of knowledge. He says these are the 20 characteristics when people have, they can get knowledge. And what are these characteristics? Humility, being very, very humble. It means no expectation of honor and dishonor. Pridelessness, it is not being anxious of being famous. Non-violence, non-violence is because of you, no one else is put into distress. Tolerance, that is bearing insults and dishonor, and still capability of bearing insults and dishonor. Then serving a bona fide guru. Why it is so important to have a guru and serve a guru? Because it's the guru who is self-realized, and guru should be coming from the parampara system, and the guru is the one who has the right knowledge. So when you serve the guru without any expectation, the guru will actually impart knowledge to you, which can help you to cross this river of birth and death. The cycle of, it can help you to cut the cycle of birth and death. That's why we should always serve the guru. And then cleanliness. Cleanliness is not only taking bath externally, but internal cleanliness. Internal cleanliness is cleanliness of mind. And cleanliness of mind, how can we get that? It is by chanting the holy name of God, by hearing about God. When we do all these things, our mind becomes purified. And when our mind becomes purified, it is capable of understanding the knowledge of our scriptures. The knowledge is there, but even if we hear, we cannot understand it. It is like if you put a seed in the soil, unless the soil is capable of helping the seed to grow, it will not grow. So it is very, very important that we prepare our heart, which is just like a soil. We have to prepare our heart so that it can take the bhakti lata beach and it can grow there. And for that, it is very, very important that we chant the holy name of God, we hear about God, and we associate with devotees. When we do all these things, then the soil of our heart becomes fertile so that the bhakti tree can actually grow. So it is very, very important to be clean inside. Then steadiness. Steadiness is determined to progress in spiritual life. When you start your journey in the spiritual life, n number of problems you will face, but one will face. But we have to be determined to progress in spiritual life. Everyone will say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. Everything is stopping you from doing the right thing, what you feel is right for the spiritual growth, right? But then you have to be determined to move forward to in the path of spiritual knowledge, right? Then self-control. Self-control means rejecting which is unfavorable for progress to Krishna, and accepting everything which is right for us to progress towards Krishna. That is what is self-control. Then it is renunciation of the objects of sense gratification. Anything, we talked about senses, anything which is going to help us to gratify our senses. It means something which we are doing which is going to help and give enjoyment to myself, that should be renounced. That should not be done. Whatever we do, whatever activity we should do, it should be to please the senses of Krishna, not our senses. When we do activity which is pleasing our senses, then what is happening? Then we actually move towards the then we move towards the bondage towards the material world. But when we do activities which is pleasing to Krishna, then we are actually moving towards the spiritual line. So we need to decide that our activity should be such that it is towards the Krishna, not towards our sense enjoyment, but towards the sense enjoyment of Krishna. So that is then no false ego. No false ego means identifying that this body is different and I sitting inside the body is different, because I am soul. When we are clear that I am not this body but I am soul, in general all our activities are directed towards this body. Whatever activity we do is to satisfy our senses and our body, right? That is how it is. But when we have an understanding, when we have a knowledge that we are not this body but we are soul, then what will happen? What it will help us to direct our activity towards the soul. Then it will help us. But once we have this knowledge that we are not this body, we are the soul, then it will help us to direct our activity towards the soul. And what is the activity of soul? Activity of soul is to serve Krishna. Serve Krishna, hearing about Krishna, decorating Krishna, making prasad for Krishna, marketing for Krishna, stitching for Krishna. Everything, our activity should be around Krishna. So that is the real identification with the body. Detachment with everything which is not taking us towards Krishna. Then even-mindedness among pleasant and unpleasant things. Whether in life there will be a lot of pleasant things will happen and unpleasant things will happen, just disconnect. It is be equal in both situation. Secluded living in the association of devotees. The more you live with devotees, what will happen? Your consciousness towards Krishna will keep on increasing, because we will talk about Krishna. So it will be more in a Krishna conscious environment that we can live. And constant and unholy devotion to Krishna with undeviating attention. That is the last thing Krishna says. That's the most important thing. These are the 20 elements. If we follow them, then what will happen? That is the jnanam. That is the object of knowledge. So when we have this quality, automatically we will actually move towards liberation. Yeah. And then the last thing is Gayam. What is Gayam? The Gayam is the object of knowledge. Huh? And this is what we covered in the last class. So what is the object of knowledge? The object of knowledge is soul and super soul. We need to know about soul and we need to know about super soul. That is the object of knowledge. And we learned some shlokas where it said that the soul is beginningless, and it's subordinate to Krishna, but the super soul, it's everywhere are his hands, legs, eyes, and faces. It is everywhere and it is all pervading. He is the source of all senses. Although he is very far, but still is very near. Although Krishna is in Golok Vrindavan, but when we offer bhog, he is there to receive the bhog, right? And we talked about how Draupadi, when she called, he came immediately running to save Draupadi, right? So although he is very far, but then he is very near. He is the maintainer, he is the destroyer, and he is the knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and is the goal of knowledge. So this is what we covered till now in our last chapter. So what we'll do is we'll start now with shlok number 20. Let's start. Shlok number 20, 13 or 20, right? Prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikarancha gunanchaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikarancha gunanchaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. Mataji.
Prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi
ubhavapi
vikaramscha
gunanchaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. So now Krishna is going to explain about the last two question of Arjun, which is what is prakriti and what is purush. Yeah, he has already explained what is kshetra, what is kshetragya, what is gyan, and what is gyam. All those four he has explained. Now the last two left is purush and prakriti. So this is the shlok where it starts about prakriti and purush. So what is purush? Purush is actually, there's only one Purush, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is the only Purush. And he is the only Purush in the sense, he is the actual enjoyer. He is the maintainer. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the enjoyer. He is everything, right? But what happens here in this shlok, Purush means the living entity. Living entity means the soul, which is in all of us. Why that soul is called Purush here? Because one shlok I always say from 15th chapter, which says, Mamai Vansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. And Krishna says in the 15th chapter that each and every soul, they are nothing but a ansh of me. They are part and parcel of me. So all the living entities are a part of parcel of Krishna, right? So they should be actually be serving Krishna. But then what happens when they rebel to that and don't want to serve Krishna? Then what happens? They come to the material world. They come to the material world. So in that case, the Purush thinks that I am the master of everything. When they come to the material world, what happens? The mood in which they are is, I am the Purush. Purush is basically the master of everything. Although he is not the real master, the soul is not the real master. The real master is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then the living entity thinks that I am the master of everything and I am the enjoyer. That mood in which the Purush is what is the, that's why Purush here is called, the living entity is the Purush here, right? And what is Prakriti? Prakriti is the material nature. Prakriti is the material nature. Now in seventh chapter, Krishna has explained, the fourth shlok of 7th chapter, Krishna has explained, Bhumi Rapo Analo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhi Revacha Ahankara Itimeva Me Bhinna Prakriti Rashtha. It means Bhumi is earth. Earth, water, fire, Vayu is air, Kham is space. These 5 are my material energy. And Ahankar is false ego. And apart from them, Buddhi, Man and Buddhi, these intelligence, my intelligence, these are my material energies. So the material energy is nothing but Prakriti. The material energy is nothing but Prakriti, which is represented by Durga Devi. She is the material energy. That is the Maya. That is the material energy, right? Then in the next shlok, in the 7th chapter, in the 5th shlok, Krishna says, अपरेमस्तत्वं prakritim vidhi me param jeev bhuta mahabaho yedam dharite jagat. He says, apart from that, Arjun, there is one more superior energy of mind, and that superior energy of mind is the living entity, the soul. What is soul? Soul is the superior energy of mind, which is a spiritual energy, which is a spiritual energy. Soul is a spiritual energy and a part and parcel of Krishna. But then, and the material energy is all the bhumi rabu, which cannot act on its own. They are just lying there. Unless the living entity touches with it, nothing can happen, right? Now, prakritim purusha chevam vidyadyanadi bhavapi. The first line Krishna says, prakritim purusham cheva. Prakriti and purush, which is the material nature and the living entity, vidya anadi ubhavapi. Ubhavapi means these two are both are anadi. They are beginningless. They are always there. They are anadi. They are beginningless. Vikaransha. Vikar is transformations. The transformation that happens, and gunash cheva. Guna is the modes of material nature. What is the modes of material nature? Ignorance, passion, and goodness. These three and are the cause of the transformation in the actual soul. The pure soul get transformed because of these three modes of material nature. Vidhi prakriti sambhava is possible because of the material nature. So let us reach the English translation. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So let us understand Prakriti a bit in detail. Now, why Krishna is talking about these two in the last? Because we are on chapter number 13. Chapter number 14 is only about material nature, and chapter number 15 is only about Purusha. So there are two chapters which is dedicated to Prakriti and Purusha. So here, but it's important to understand some basics. Here he'll just take us into basics. So let us hear that. So Prakriti. So let's understand the mysteries of material nature. So we have already talked about the process of creation. How does the creation happen? I know in science we have read that there was suddenly a big bang and everything came into picture. Everything was perfect. The sun was there, the all the planets were in the right direction, right space, and everything was floating and moving. But that is not what our scripture says. Our scriptures are much advanced than even the present day science. As per Srimad Bhagavatam, it has explained the creation process in very detailed, right? So if you know, Krishna has got various avatars. We have talked about the Purusha avatar, Leela avatars. So there are multiple avatars that we talked about in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, the Purusha avatar is basically the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu. These three avatars, they are basically these three expansions are called the Purusha avatar, right? Now, the Mahavishnu is the one when he breathes out from the skin, from the pores of his skin, basically the universe gets generated. And when he breathes in, the universe actually comes in. Now, how long is this breathing out and breathing in? So when he breathes out and when he breathes in, the difference between that is 100 days of Brahma. It is 100 days of Brahma, which if I have to compare it from Earth years, it is 311 trillion years. And all the calculations are given in detail in Bhagavatam. So if you read it in detail, it talks about how exactly all these things calculation happens, right? It is 311 trillion years once the universe actually gets created, and finally it gets absorbed. So what it happens is when Mahavishnu breathes, the universe actually gets formed. Now there are multiple universe that gets formed. In the universe, in one of the universe, now Mahavishnu expands as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He expands as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and he enters the universe. And then from his perspiration, which is not like ours, basically he creates a water and he lies down in the Sheshnag inside that. Then from his navel, a lotus stem actually is it gets created, and the end there is a lotus which is there. In this stem which we see, there are 14 planets. There are 14 planets, and we are in the Bhu, which is in the middle. We are in the middle. Above us is the 7 and below is 6. So that is the hellish planets, that is the higher planets. So that is there in the lotus stem, and the top of that we have Brahma, and Brahma gets created by Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So if you go to Kerala, the Padmanabh temple that we talk about, this is the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, which is actually worshipped there. You will see the lotus stem and you will see Brahma there. So that is the famous Padmanabh temple in Kerala that Trivandrum, that we know about, right? Now, what happens is, now this is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Then with the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, what happens? Then it is, so basically then when the living entities are created, for each and every living entity, then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu expands as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is the super soul, Paramatma, who resides in everyone's heart, right? So this is how from the Mahavishnu's body the material world gets created, and the end of Brahma's days it actually gets destroyed, right? So material world is nothing but it's like a spider web. The material world, it is temporary because it gets created and again it gets destroyed. So the material world is nothing but just like a spider web. So I would like to tell you, but what happens? The Prakriti is eternal. Prakriti is always there. And also what happens? Only the material world is temporary and the God is always there. Just to help us understand from a general term, think about mud. What does a potter do? A potter uses the mud and makes pot. Potter uses the mud and make pot, and he makes multiple pots. So mud is always there. The potter is using the mud to make pots, and when when the pot gets destroyed, it again goes and back in mud. So was the mud always there? Mud was there, but the pots was created. And did the pot get created on its own? No. A potter was needed to create the pot, right? A potter was needed to create the pot. Exactly same way it is like this in the actual universe. So what happens? The material nature, which is the elements of the material nature, earth, water, all the material nature that we have talked about, they are always existing. But then when the creation happens, then just like the potter makes the pot, similarly when the creation happens, the material world get created. And in the end, when the material world is destroyed, then what happens? It again goes back to the material nature, which remains as unless the next time creation happens, right? Understood? Next time creation happens, it remains that. Material nature is always there. That is why Prakriti is endless, Anadi. Prakriti, material nature is Anadi. Similarly, Purusha is also Anadi. But only the material world that is created and destroyed. So that is the only thing which is temporary, right? And the life of that universe is 311 trillion years, equivalent to 100 days of Brahma. This is clear, right? Then the material world is actually the material world which is created is compared with a spider web. Now, just what does the spider do? Spider spins its web and find after a while it winds it back into himself, right? Similarly, the Supreme Lord creates the material world and again takes it back after a time. Then now what does the spider web do? It traps many flies and other insects. It traps the flies and insects, right? But similarly, the material energy, what does the material energy, what does it do? It traps and binds the spirit souls. But why does it bind the spirit soul? We'll see in the next flow, right? So it traps and binds the spirit soul. And whom it's bind? Not everyone. Whoever wants to be away from the God, who wants to enjoy in the material world, the material world will bind them. It'll bind them, right? And then what will happen? Just like the insects struggle in the spider web to remove, and the more the insects struggle, what happens? It starts getting more and more bound. Similarly, the living entity, when they want to free themselves, when they are trying to enjoy more and more, they're getting bounded more and more in the material world. And then what happens? Just like if someone has to get freed from the web, it has to be an external person who has to remove the. Similarly, the living entity in the material world can only be freed by someone a guru who is a self-realized person who can give the knowledge how to come out of this cycle of birth and death. That is why a spider web is compared to the material world. Clear?
Yeah.
Huh? And then similar, let's read back. So this is what is about the shlok, 20th shlok, that Prakriti and Purusha both are anadi. Purush is a part of Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the end of the destruction, it goes and gets absorbed back in Mahavishnu. And similarly, Prakriti, once this is destroyed, it goes back and remains unmanifested unless the next creation happens, right? This is the process of creation. Now let us go to the next shlok, 21st. कार्य कारण कर्तृत्वे हेतु प्रकृति रुच्यते पुरुष सुख दुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतु रुच्यते कार्य कारण कर्तृत्वे हेतु प्रकृति रुच्यते पुरुष सुख दुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतु रुच्यते माताजी कार्य कारण कर्तृत्वे हेतु प्रकृति रुच्यते पुरुष सुख दुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतु रुच्यते. Now Krishna says karya karan kartitve. Karya is, what is karya? Karya is effect. And karan is cause. Kartitve, the cause and effect. Hetu is instrument. Prakriti ruchyate. The first line talks about the material nature. And so let's read the English translation. Nature is said to be the cause of all material cause and effects.
Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects.
Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam. Purusha is the living entity. Sukh and Dukh, the happiness and distress, Bhoktitva, whatever he enjoys, is also because of the Prakriti. So whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in the world. Now here, it's a very interesting shlok. So let us now continue with our talk that, the material world is created. So the question, and then we will go back again in this shlok, right? So the question is, why does Krishna create the material world? Why he has to create the material world, right? It is because the living entity, it is created for those who want to rebel against Krishna. They want to enjoy. They don't want to serve Krishna. They don't consider him to be the master. They want to enjoy and want to be the master and enjoy. So what happens? Krishna says, fine, don't worry. I am creating you a place for you. And that is what is the material. All of us are here, right? Because all of us wanted to enjoy separate than Krishna. We all wanted to be enjoying, right? So what happens is, it is very interesting. Now, when the soul wants to enjoy and wants to run away from God, then what happens? He gets attracted towards the material. Who is waiting for that? The material energy is the Prakriti. The material energy is actually waiting for the soul. Now the material energy is waiting for the soul, and it offers the modes of material nature. The modes of material nature is what? There are three modes of material nature: ignorance, passion, and goodness. All those three things are ready, available in the material nature. The Prakriti is ready with all the three things with them. Now the soul, based on the karma, what happens? The soul also has a free will to choose where they want to go, all the three things are offered by material energy, right? But which will you choose is depend upon the soul. That's why it says in second line, Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam, the suffering and the enjoyment of the living entity, Bhoktitve Hedruchate, depend upon what he enjoys, whatever his or her ruchi is there, interest is there in the material nature. Whichever is enjoy, whichever place that person, the desire gets attracted, accordingly the happiness or suffering will come to the soul. The desire. So basically, the desire of the soul, the desire of the living entity, which side he is looking for, defines the next course of birth for the living entity. It defines how you will progress in your life and what will be your next outcome. If you are focused towards mode of ignorance, you can be assured that you are moving towards the hellish life. When you are attracted towards passion, you can be rest assured you are again bound in this material birth and death, and you will somewhere, if you are also, you will be bound, and you will continue, you will again get another chance to do something again based on how your eating habits and other had been, right? And the third, which is temple and all, you are guaranteed at least you will get a human life. The second doesn't guarantee you a human life, but if you are attracted towards temple, hearing God, at least you are, all depends upon how much you have progressed. At least Krishna says you will get a human life, so you are getting a chance to actually move forward, right? It towards your path of liberation, right? Now let's read this meaning again. Nature is said to be the cause of all material cause of effects. Material nature is said to be the cause of all material cause and effect, right? So material nature is offering you all the three things, right? Whereas the living entity is the cause of various suffering. Who is the actual reason for sufferings and enjoyment? Karma of the desire. It is the human being, it is the desire of the soul, whatever he desires. The actual reason for all the suffering is the desire. So what happens, how are these three related? Soul, prakriti, and super soul. How is that related? The soul desires. Now when the soul desires, what does the prakriti do? Material nature, it enables. And when it enables, it enables, and then it goes to Supreme Lord for sanctioning. And the Supreme Lord sanctions based on the karma of the soul. Sanctions based on the karma of the soul. For example, the soul wants to go to the place of ignorance, right? So what will happen? The material nature will offer that places, so that the soul gets attracted, so it's enabling that one. The soul's association will become such that it will get attracted, it will be in that mode. And then super soul, based on the karma which is stored, will actually allow or disallow. Yeah. So who is the actual reason why things happen? It is actually the desire of the soul. That is why things happen. Accordingly, things happen to the person. Okay, which is again not only just the desire, it is also controlled by the karma. Desire and karma, you may desire, but you may not have sufficient karma to have that. You may desire to get something, but your karma does not have, you don't have enough piety to get that, you may not get it. You want to have something, but your karma has enough piety, then you will have it. There was a very interesting example I heard today, so let me share that with you. So it is like, this you can compare, like, this you can compare with brands of car. Now suppose you want to, so there are different brands of car which is available in the market. Say a Maruti, a Hyundai, a Jaguar, a Mercedes, a BMW. There are different varieties of car that can be okay. Now to make this car, you need the components. So that is the material nature. The material nature is providing the components to make this car, right? And then someone who has a money, when the person has a money, accordingly he or she can buy the car based on the money. Someone wants a Mercedes, has to have a higher money, right? Now this, compared to, if you compare in the with this one, so the material nature, which is Durga Devi, gives the what do you call it, gives the what do you call it, Prakriti gives the material. It supplies the material uh, for the soul, right? Now the karma, and what does Brahmaji do? Brahmaji is the creator. He gives the shape and form. Shape and form means whether you'll be a human, whether you'll be a tiger, you'll be a dog, all those shape and forms comes from Brahmaji. He defines the template. So template is nothing but like the type of car, and material nature is nothing but the component is being supplied. And the car that you can buy is basically the karma of the soul. Based on the karma, accordingly you can have that car. Understood? That is the relation between all these three things. And the free will and desire, for example, the free will is like, it's, for example, the Sunday class. There are so many people who knows about the Sunday class, but it is your free will whether you want to come for the Sunday class or you want to go for a party, right? So it's a choice that we make, and accordingly you will get the results of that choice that we make, right? So now let us go to the next shlok. Shlok number 22. Purushah prakristho hi
Purusha prakritisto hi
bhukte prakritijan gunan
bhukte prakritijan gunan
karanam gunasangosya
karanam gunasangosya
sad asad yoni janmasu
sat asasyo nijanmasu
Purushah prakristho hi
Purusha prakritisto hi
bhukte prakritijan gunan
te prakritijan gunan
karanam gunasangosya
karanam gunasangosya
sad asad yoni janmasu.
sat asasyo nijanmasu
Mataji. Purusha prakristho hi bhukte prakritijan gunan karanam gunasangosya sad asad yoni janmasah. It's basically extension of what I've told, explained in the last shlok. It is say Purusha prakristho hi. Prakristho hi. Prakriti is the material nature. So this body is nothing but the material. It's made up of those 24 elements of material thing, right? And Purusha is the living entity. So the living entity in the material nature. So let's read the English translation. The living entity in material nature
the living entity in material nature
thus follows the ways of life,
that follow the ways of life,
enjoying the three modes of nature.
enjoying the three modes of nature.
This is due to his association
This is due to his association
with that material nature.
with that material nature.
Thus he meets with good and evil
Thus he meets with good and evil
among various species.
among various species.
Yeah. So basically, whatever happens to the Purush, it is also influenced by, it is his desire influenced by the material nature. That is what is being, accordingly the Sad and Asad. Sad is good and evil. Sad and Asad, Yoni. Accordingly, Janmasu is, accordingly the Janma and everything is defined, right? Now let us go to the next shlok, 23rd. Updashtanumanta cha
Upadrashtanumanta cha
Bharta Bhokta Maheshwarah
Bharta Bhokta Maheshwarah
Paramatmeti Chapyukto
Paramatmeti Chapyukto
Dehe Asmin Purushah Parah
Dehe Asmin Purusha Parah
Updashtra Anumanta cha
Upadrashtanumanta cha
Bharta Bhokta Maheshwarah
Bharta Bhokta Maheshwarah
Paramatmeti Chapyukto
Paramatmeti Chapyukto
Dehi Asmin Purushah Parah.
Dehi Asmin Purusha Parah
उपद्रष्टानुमानता च
Updashtra Anumanta cha
भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः
Bharta Bhokta Maheshwarah
परमात्मेति चाप्यक्तो
Paramatmeti Chapyukto
देहे अस्मिन् पुरुषः परः
Dehi Asmin Purushah Parah. So now, Dehe Asmin Purushah Parah. Purushah Parah is the supreme Purusha. Who is the supreme Purusha? Is the super soul, the great God, Lord. He says Dehe Asmin, in this body. In this body also, who is there? Not only the living entity is there, but also the Param Purusha, which is the supreme soul. That is also inside this body. And what is the characteristics of that Param Purusha? Upadashtra. Updashtra means he is the overseer. He is seeing everything. Upadashtra means he is seeing everything. Anumanta, he is the permitter. He is the one who gives permission to do or not to do based on the karma that you have acquired. Cha bharta. Bharta means he is the maintainer. Bhokta, he is the enjoyer. And Maheshwara he is the supreme personality of Lord Godhead, right? Paramatmeti. And how is he situated as super soul? Chapyukto, in this body, Dehe Asmin Purushapara, right? Let us read the English translation. Yet in this body,
Yet in this body,
there is another,
there is another,
a transcendental enjoyer.
a transcendental enjoyer.
Who is the Lord,
Who is the Lord,
the supreme proprietor,
the supreme proprietor,
who exists as
who exists as
overseer
the overseer
and permitter,
and permitter.
and who is known as a super soul. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, if you see the word, a transcendental enjoyer. Why is the word transcendental enjoyer is used? Unlike the living entity who gets entangled with the material nature, who gets into the bondage of birth and death, but the Paramatma does not get entangled. He is beyond the three modes of material nature. And if you remember the shlok, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti, in the 9th chapter we read that Krishna says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti, the material nature is under my control. It is under my control. And it is very, very difficult to cross the material nature. But those who surrender unto me, I hold them and let them cross the cycle. So what Krishna says is the material nature is under my control and is very, very difficult to overcome that. But someone who is surrendered to me, I ensure that they cross it very nicely, right? So Krishna he's the one who is he's the overseer. He's seeing everything. He's just sitting. He will not interfere in your work. He's what he's doing in the car. The soul is sitting and driving, right? And enjoying. And what is the super soul doing? Super soul is sitting behind. He's sitting behind and just watching you. He's just watching you doing nothing. He is the Upadashta, Anumanta. He is the permitter. He allows. You want to do something wrong? He doesn't want it. But then, because if your karma is like that he'll say, okay, but not that he's happy about it. Because all these things are taking you away from him. He's the father of everyone. A father will never like his children to do wrong things. But then he's waiting. He's waiting when you will turn and look at me. He's always there. He's just behind you. In the behind seat, he's sitting. Unless you call him, he will not listen. When you call, then only he'll come and sit next to you. Yeah. So what is the quality, the qualities of the super soul? He's Updashta. Updashta is overseer. Anumanta is basically the permitter. Bharta is someone who maintains, who gives everything. Bharta is a maintainer. Bhokta, he is the enjoyer, he is a transcendental enjoyer. He is actually the Purusha. He is the supreme Purusha who is actually, he is energetic. The material nature is material energy. And we are spiritual energy. Everything gets emanated from him, right? And that's what it is, right? So let us see the when we say that he permits, then let us think about the story of Draupadi Chirharan. When we are saying that, did Krishna permit that? Yeah. Then when the Kauravas were trying to disrobe Draupadi, then what would have happened? How exactly that would have happened? So when the Kauravas, when Duryodhan and all, they desired to disrobe Draupadi, yeah, they had the desire to do it. And when the desire to do that, in the Sabha, it was the material nature enabled it, because all the people were supporting Duryodhan. Yeah. And the super soul sitting inside Duryodhan also approved it, permitted it based on seeing this one. But then, if you look at it, what the karma of Draupadi, she's a great devotee of Krishna. So what he proved to everyone, said, what do you think? You can disrobe. And what he did was, he actually showed everyone the devotion of Draupadi to the entire world. How devoted she is to Krishna, that whatever you can do to the devotee, you cannot harm. Right? Yeah. So that is something which we can learn. Let's go to the next shlok. Ya evam veti purusham
या एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं
प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह
प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह
सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि
सर्वदा वर्तमानोऽपि
न स भूयोऽभिजायते
न स भूयो विजायते
य एवं वेति पुरुषं
य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं
प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह
प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह
सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि
सर्वदा वर्तमानोऽपि
न स भूयोऽभिजायते.
न स भूयो विजायते.
Mataji?
Ya evam veti purusham.
Ya evam veti purusham
Prakritim cha gunai saha.
prakritim cha gunai saha
Sarvata vartamanopi.
sarvatha vartamanopi
Na sabhuyo vijayate.
na sa bhuyo bhijayate. Krishna says, Ya evam veti. Veti is know. Veti means to know. So ya means those who know. What do they know? Those who know about Purush, the living entity, and the super soul, Prakriti, the material nature, and Gudai, the modes of material nature. If someone who knows that, not only knows, understand, but also self get realize about that what is what who am I? That is living entity. Who is super soul? What is material nature? What is the three modes of material nature? How it acts on the soul, and ensures that is also focused on the soul self realization. Then sarvatha vartamanopi na so bhuyo bhijayate. Who understands that will not take birth again, and in whatever, regardless of its present position. Sarvatha vartamanopi. Vartaman is present. So let's read the English translation. One who understands this philosophy
One who understands this philosophy
concerning material nature,
concerning material nature,
the living entity,
the living entity,
and the interaction of the modes of material nature,
the interaction of the modes of material nature,
is sure to attain liberation.
is sure to attain
He
liberation.
will not take birth here again,
He will not take birth here again,
regardless of his present position. So, once you have this knowledge, then you can have your behavior to know what is right and what is wrong, and realize it and internalize it to follow in the right direction. Instead of moving towards material nature, look towards Purusha. Look towards the, because you have the free will. You can look towards God, and you can look towards enjoyment. You have the free will. The free will is, God has given you the free will to choose. It is only you who can desire which way we want to go, right? And if you go in the right direction, then you have liberation waiting for you. If you go towards material nature, it is bondage waiting for you. So those who know about this and then work accordingly in the right direction will actually get liberated, is what this shloka talks about. And let's read the next slok, 25th slok. ध्याने ध्या ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति
ज्ञानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति,
केचित् आत्मना
केचित् आत्मना आत्मना,
अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन
अन्यसाङ्ख्येन योगेन,
कर्मयोगेन चापरे
कर्मयोगेन चापरे,
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति
ज्ञानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति,
केचित् आत्मनमात्मना
केचिदात्मनमात्मना,
अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन
अन्यसाङ्ख्येन योगेन,
कर्मयोगेन चापरे.
कर्मयोगेन चापरे,
माताजी,
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति
चिन्तात्मनात्मना
केचित् आत्मनमात्मना
अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन
अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन
केन चापरे
कर्मयोगेन चापरे. Now Krishna says, now he's talking about how can you achieve the super soul. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti. Someone, pashyanti is to see. Someone sees the super atmana is the super soul. Someone sees the super soul by dhyan. Dhyan is meditation, by dhyana yoga. That is the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Someone achieves the super soul by meditation. Anya, others, Sankhyena Yogena. So we are on which chapter? We are on the Gyan part of Bhagavad Gita. So Sankhya Yoga is nothing but Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga and Sankhya Yoga is same. Others by Jnana Yoga, they actually achieve super soul. Some by Karma Yoga. Others by what of Karma Yoga? It is a Nishkam Karma Yoga. What is Nishkam Karma Yoga? Do all your activities and offer it to Krishna with no expectation. That is Nishkam Karma Yoga. Others by Nishkam Karma Yoga actually achieves the super soul. So let us read the translation. Some perceive the super soul
some perceive the super soul
within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge,
others through the cultivation of knowledge,
and still others
and still others
through working without fruitive desires.
working without fruitive desires.
And today's last shlok, we'll read the 26th shlok. Anye tvameva ma janantah
Anye
Evam vajanantah
Shrutvanebhya upasate
Shrutvanyebhya upasate
te api chati taranteva
te apichataranteva
mrityum shruti parayanah
Mrityum Shruti Parayanah
Anye te tvevam janantah
Anye
Ajanantah
Shrutvanebhya upasate
Shrutvanyebhya upasate
te api chatirananteva
te apichataranteva
mrityum shruti parayanah.
Mrityum Shruti Parayanah
And it's and yeah, anye tvameva ajanantah Shrutvanebhya upasate te api chatirantevam mrityum shruti parayanam. And then he talks about others. Anye tvayev ajananta. What shrutva may be upasate. And others, what happened? Those who don't know, what happened? They, by hearing about all this knowledge, when they hear about all this knowledge, then what do they? Shrutva nebhya. By hearing about all this knowledge from great gurus, then upasate, they start worshipping. They do start doing upasana. Upasana is they start worshipping. Te api cha, and then they also cha taranteva. They can also cross. What they can cross? Mrityum. They can also cross the cycle of birth and death. Shruti Payan, just by hearing about all this knowledge. So let us read the English translation. Again, there are those
Again, there are those
who,
who,
although not conversant in spiritual knowledge,
although not conversant in spiritual knowledge,
begin to worship the Supreme Person
begin to worship the Supreme Person
upon hearing about Him from others.
upon hearing about Him from others.
Because of their tendency to hear
Because of their tendency to hear
from authorities,
from authorities,
they also transcend
they also transcend
the path of birth and death.
the path of birth and death.
For example, Arjun. What is Arjun doing? Krishna is speaking and Arjun is listening. Bhagavad Gita is what? Krishna is, Arjun was compassionate. He doesn't want to fight. He was in Maya Jal. He was completely in compassion. He was in Maya, attracted towards the material world. And when he is hearing from Krishna about this knowledge, what happens in the end? Arjun is able to cross the cycle of birth and death. Right? So with this, we finish our today's class. Let us chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra thrice. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you all.